You guys ran in the front pretty much all 300 and however many miles we went. Depends on who's counting. But tell me about your day. It seemed like you guys had your stuff together. I know it's been a rough 8 weeks with all the things that you've had to deal with and going on, but how's it feel to go through the day, lead laps, and be where you were at the end of the day to win the race?
Yeah, Kevin, that was a much needed weekend for our group. And, going back to Kansas a couple of weeks ago, another intermediate, I felt like we were starting to get a little bit of momentum going after a really, really bad stretch of races. We qualified on the pole at Kansas, but then in the race, we were still just lacking a little bit. So Charlotte was the first weekend in a long time where we had a good practice session, a great qualifying session, and then whenever Sunday rolled around, we had a great race car too. So I was bummed that we didn't get to do all 600 miles, but a win's a win, and obviously a crown jewel event like the Coke 600 is a really big deal. So I'm happy to get a crown jewel, my first one, and hopefully there's a couple more in my future.
Yeah, well, I think you've got a bunch more in your future, buddy. I think it's fun to watch you kind of grow and progress and hear the confidence in your voice. But I've sat outside of a few race cars in Victory Lane and been booed like that. What was that like? Have you ever been booed like that in Victory Lane? I know it wasn't really geared towards you, but it caught me off guard, and I was sitting in the booth watching it all.
Yeah, I'll be honest. That was the first time in my career that I've gotten booed in Victory Lane. And I knew that the situation was not ideal to have that long rain delay and everyone has their hopes up that we're going to go racing again. And then to call it later on in the evening, I understand why the boos were there, but it definitely caught me off guard. And especially it was like after they announced, and your winner is Christopher Bell, here he is. And then just the boos rained. So that's the first for me, but I guess I'd rather have booze than nothing at all.
Well, that's right. And really, surely, that it wasn't towards you. So I think it was really interesting because the fans were pretty wound up about coming back to the racetrack and being able to see the track dry. And then it was just a weird ending to how it all got canceled. But so I heard you say in your interview after the race, did you really find out listening? Were you like half asleep on the couch?
Dude,
tell me how you found out.
I am not kidding, Kevin. So we had the broadcast rolling in the background, right? And I'll be honest, I thought for sure it was going to get canceled whenever the downpoured at 10 o'clock at night and they lost the racetrack. I thought for sure it was over. And then all of a sudden the rain stops and they didn't call the race. So then I'm just mentally trying to prepare myself for going back racing. And I thought the fact that it stopped raining, they're attempting to dry the track. Like there's no way they're going to call the race at that point. So I'm trying to get a nap in. I knew it was going to be a really late night. And then you guys had Radioactive in the background. So that was just kind of like white noise. And then all of a sudden the Radioactive stopped and the booth comes on. And then you know what I'm talking about. Like whenever you're not expecting something to come on and it does come on, it like gets your attention. And then literally you guys in the booth and the NASCAR notification that we get on our phones came at the exact same time. So yes, you broke the news to me basically.
Well, at least we were good for something. So I want to go back to your cars, and Clint and I and Mike, we talk every week about the speed that you guys have in your cars, and how much does that help you get through like the little slump that you guys have been through, knowing that if you just dot all the I's and cross all the T's, you can get to where you need to be to win races. I know it's frustrating having the issues on pit road or crashing out or whatever that would be, but how does that help you get through this situation? Who takes charge in this situation? Is it you? Is it Chris? Or has this kind of been a team effort to put all the pieces together to understand that you guys had the speed? In my opinion, that you've had the speed in your cars.
Yeah, I mean, you've been around long enough to know what those slumps feel like, right? And I'll be honest, that was the longest period of bad races I've ever had in my Cup career so far. So I definitely was beat down mentally, but this weekend is just a constant reminder that whenever you're driving for such a premier organization as JGR, what happens last week, what happens the previous month, it doesn't matter. And the only thing that matters is what's ahead of you, and you have the equipment to go out there and win. If you do all the details right, if the setup's right, the pit crew performs, and I drive the car to the best of my capability, then we should be in the hunt. And this weekend was an eye opener for that, because frankly, we didn't have really any momentum on our side. We did okay at Kansas at the beginning of May, and then North Wilkesboro, I had moments of being good and racing for the win, and then a restart later, I'm literally running dead ass last. So it was just refreshing to just experience that again, right? Like momentum is obviously important and you want to carry it, but if you don't have it, it's not the end of the world. And all you have to do is do the details and you're going to have a shot.
So how do you broach that subject with your crew chief? Is it something that you guys talk about? Is it something that you guys just know? Because every team's different. And I tell people all the time, everybody's personality is different. Every team is different. What's the dynamic of your team and how you guys communicate the bad times? The easy times are good for everybody, but how do you get through the bad times with Chris and everybody on your team?
Yeah, so that's a little bit unique, right? And after driving for a couple different crew chiefs throughout my short career so far, I've learned that every one of them and every team has a different dynamic, right? So in our team's situation, Adam Stevens just worked with Kyle Busch for a long period of time, and Kyle is a very, very different driver than myself. And I think Kyle probably took more of a leadership role in the team than I do. And I found that I work best whenever I am, I don't want to say an employee of the crew chief, but like I'm underneath the crew chief, and the crew chief runs the team. He leads the team, and he tells, the driver, like, hey, you're going to do this week. You're going to do that this week. I need this from you. I need that from you. And that's whenever I can perform my best and get the most out of myself as a driver. So, Adam is our team leader, and he's the one that's keeping us going week in and week out, especially through the bad times. So, it was really bad there for a little bit. And I even had to pump up Adam, but it was, he's our leader. He's our team leader for sure.
Yeah, and I apologize for calling him Chris. I
was thinking you were meaning Adam, so it's all good.
Yeah, you knew I was meaning Adam. But the one thing that always is interesting is and we've asked a lot of the guys this over that have driven the old car. What do you think about the difference in how you prepare in this car compared to the old car? For me, I always thought the workload was a little more intense with this car. What's your opinion on how you prepare for the next gen car compared to what you did in the old car?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because I'm intrigued to hear what other drivers say about it too. But there are times where you go to the racetrack, and probably more so on short tracks, but like at Iowa this week at the tire test, it was a repave. So it was it's not like the past, but still the tendencies, the driving tendencies, your lift points, how you apply the brake pressure, your throttle on application. I'm like, wow, like this feels like I was just here in an old Xfinity car. Like it related really, really similar. And then, kind of same thing at Loudon and Phoenix. Whenever your car is driving good and doing the things it needs to, at least on the shorter tracks, it feels normal, right? And the caveat to that is the intermediate stuff. It's just so easy to step over the edge and wreck out by yourself, where especially whenever I got into the Cup Series at the intermediates, we had the big spoilers and the low downforce, the low horsepower, high downforce stuff. So it was pretty easy to overdrive the car and get away with it. Where now, like the Coke 600 this week, it was just, for me, stage one was just like, okay, just get to the end of stage one, like get your feet underneath of you and understand, where the limit is with the car without going over. And I've had plenty of races where, I feel like I can get away with running the car a little bit looser, and then I spin out and crash out early in the race. So for me, the preparation is just all about trying to be on the conservative side, early on in the races, and then build up your confidence and start driving the car harder later on in the races, especially on the intermediates.
race fans, thanks for watching our video. For all NASCAR on Fox News, content, and the best clips from Fox Sports, be sure to follow and subscribe to our channel.